Hey my squids, it's your favorite cephalopod, the prize-winning squid here, back with a brand new video. If you're not familiar with me, I'm a little bit of an intermediate artist who does webcomics, illustrations, and I also talk about gear and art discussions and speed paints on this channel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. So before we get into everything today, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. The topic for today is going to be why I think we need to get away from saying, I'm not good at insert a certain type of art, whether it's, I'm not good at doing backgrounds, I'm not good at doing figures, I'm not good at doing animals. I think we need to get away from that, and I have some reasons why, and hopefully you guys either agree if you disagree, or if you have your own ideas of this same topic, talk about them in the comments, please. But a little bit of housekeeping. So you've probably noticed that I have not uploaded a lot of videos over this last year. One of the reasons is because doing videos just takes a long time. So I haven't been able to do videos since I work a normal 9 to 5. After work, I really want to work on my art itself and not videos. So I spend a lot of time assembling clips and not really being able to edit and put them together and put them out. I'm hoping to change that. I'm hoping that I can do something like this where I do a talking head where I just talk to the camera and then the speed paint's going on in the background and there's not too much editing on the side that I have to do. We're going to try it with this video, and then I'm going to try a new schedule where I upload videos on the first Friday and the last Friday of every month. I actually changed my upload schedule for my webcomic from every other Friday to the last Friday of every month, and that has actually freed me up to do way more pages in way more detail. The art is looking much, much better than it was in previous iterations, so hopefully that works here. With all that said, like I said, we're going to do a little bit of a discussion of why I think we need to get away from saying I'm not good at a certain type of art. And the speed paints we're going to have today are going to be Mantis and Magik from the Marvel Universe. It's going to be Magik's version from Marvel Rivals, and then Mantis is going to be from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie, but it's going to be the Marvel Rivals version of that outfit. I'm addicted to the game, freaking love these characters. I enjoy drawing all of these characters, so we're going to get into that. Once we get into that, we're going to jump into the rest of the discussion, and hopefully you guys agree with what I'm saying. If you don't, let me know in the comments. Now that we got the speed paints on the screen here, I think we need to get away from saying I'm not good at insert a certain type of art, because I think that limits us. First, I think when you tell yourself that you're not good at a certain something, that you've already put a limit on yourself, that even if you attempted that thing, you won't be able to attempt it at your fullest ability. And I think that when we say, for instance, I'm not good at backgrounds, that means that if you're great at portraits, you can do portraits all day long, or you can draw animals all day long. But as soon as you attempt to do the background, you start struggling. You start second guessing everything that you're doing, whether it's your lines, your line weights, the colors that you might be doing, so on and so forth. And I think when you do this, it also limits what you're good at. And I don't mean, say, for instance, you will only be able to do portraits. I mean that if you're not experimenting and you're not exploring and you're not testing different types of art that you might not have ever explored before, then you might be losing some skill sets, some techniques that can be brought back to what you are more comfortable doing. For instance, if you're doing portraits, right? And you tell yourself, I'm not good at doing full figures. I'm not good at doing animals. I'm not good at doing backgrounds. We'll take the animals one, for instance. So you say, I'm not good at doing animals. And your reasoning might be, well, I'm not good at doing their fur or the way that their limbs look or the way that their eyes might look. When you're doing your portraits, knowing and experimenting with how to do fur and how to get fur looking its best can actually be transferred to hair. And then vice versa. So if you're really good at portraits and you're amazing at being able to draw hair and make it look alive, you can take that same kind of information, that same technique, and you can apply it to animals that might have longer coats. And I think if you don't try to think in those terms of I'm not good specifically at doing a full thing, but I can take techniques that I already know and kind of apply them to this thing and then explore other avenues and assets of what this is, then I can get better at that thing. But I also think that when you do this, then you don't have the ability to explore new techniques, because you'll only look for techniques that apply to what you're doing. So with portraits, if you're wondering how to get better at, say, shadows, right? Your shadow game isn't as great as you would love it to be. But you say to yourself, I'm not good at doing backgrounds. Well, if you haven't explored doing backgrounds, it might be a little bit harder to do shadows. Why? Because shadows exist in nature. And if you're able to go into nature and say, these different colors, these different shades, these are the things and values, these are the things that make shadows look alive. They look consistent in the piece. You won't be able to take that same information and apply it to your portraits. And then you could make your portraits feel more alive. Say, for instance, you have crazy hair colors. What would the shadows look like with some crazy hair colors? Well, it might be a little bit harder for you to grasp that knowledge because you haven't played with that same palette in a background somewhere. So I hear you saying, like, but what if I'm not good at insert thing? And so I ask, when you were a kid and you were doing art, did you ever say I wasn't good at and insert something? Or did you just do it? You just tried it, you attempted it. And if it didn't work the first time, you just kept going. Like you drew a tree and the tree didn't look great. So then you kept attempting to draw a tree over and over again. And then one day your tree actually looked really good. But you wouldn't have gotten to that really good tree if you didn't explore, if you didn't attempt something. I look at how kids approach doing art or approach language or approach anything. And there's never an idea of these are the rules of said thing. And I think that actually sets us back as adults. And I'll take the portrait thing, for instance. So with portraits, we will look at something specific and we'll say, well, it needs to look like this, right? We'll see somebody who does portraits that we really like. And so we want to kind of imitate it a little bit, maybe break it out and try to make it our own kind of style or whatever. But we'll look at this, we'll look at what they're doing and we'll say, but it needs to be like this. These are the rules for that thing. But kids don't do that. What kids do is they'll go, I like what that looks like. I'm going to attempt it with whatever I have. It doesn't matter what it is. So we're not talking just traditional. We're not talking just digital. We're talking, it doesn't matter what it is. They don't have to have, say, an Apple Pencil, a stylus or anything. They'll use their finger. They'll attempt it with paints and they'll try mixing just different paints to kind of come up with different things. But as adults, we might be like, well, I don't want to use and mix all these different paints because paints are expensive and I only have a limited number of canvases, when really you don't. You could use a piece of paper and paper towel or something. Like you have to almost be childlike in the way that you think and you approach doing different things that you're not used to. And so a kid, for instance, would, with the portrait, they would attempt the portrait and they would look at it and be like, I'm proud of this, and then set it down and then they'd attempt another one. And they would keep going until one day their eyes start lining up. The nose starts looking correct. The shading on the chin starts looking better and better and better. The hair starts looking better. Instead of them saying, well, I'm not good at portraits, they just continue exploring and attempting. Maybe they're sitting on the couch with mom, dad, sister, brother, whoever, and they're looking at them, and for whatever reason, they're studying the way that their ear looks. And typically adults will say, well, let me see if I can find something that tells me how to draw an ear. But a kid they don't typically do that. They'll look at something in their environment and they'll go, that's what that looks like. I'm going to attempt it. And the first time they attempt it, it's not going to look good. Because when you attempt something, it doesn't look good. The only way that you get good at something is through multiple failures. But the kid just keeps going. They don't have the thing that's in the back of their head that says, well, you're not good at this. You shouldn't do this. Instead, they just simply keep going. And they might eventually, as they get a little bit better and better at doing that thing, there might be, say, an art teacher who says, okay, I see you're doing this. Here's a simpler way to kind of think of these shapes, right? But they already have the tool set. They've already explored everything that they can explore when it comes to that thing, and now they're getting some refinement. Whereas when you're a beginner artist as an adult, or just an adult returning to art, a lot of the time you'll seek out, what's the rule set for this? How do I do this thing with the rules? And if you can't do the thing with the rules, you'll be like, well, I'm not good at this. And I think that's what's holding you back. And that's what's holding all artists back, is saying, I'm not good at insert this thing. With the kid example again. So as children, we explore, and we should do more of this as adults too. But kids tend to explore a ton. So we'll go back to the portrait example. At first, they're just drawing faces. And then eventually, a kid will turn around and they'll start just drawing trees, drawing hills, drawing mountains. Who knows why they did it? Maybe just one day they saw like a mountain and they thought it looked cool, and so they drew it. And it didn't look great. It didn't look real. But they continued doing it. And then they go on vacation somewhere and there was tons of flags and clothes, and they just like the way the wrinkles look. And so there are pages upon pages of them just drawing flags. And you're wondering, why are they drawing flags? Who knows? They're just drawing flags. And then they come back and they go to the park and they see people playing. And it's so cool to them the way that, for instance, somebody's playing basketball. So they continuously start drawing people in action poses. And then somewhere years later, down the line, they have action poses, they have a background, and they have a portrait all on the same page. And somebody goes, man, this looks really good. You're good at everything. But they didn't become good at everything. It's just that they explored everything until they were good enough to start putting things together. We as adults tend, a lot of the time, and when I say adults, I'll lump in like adolescents, because when you're late adolescence, when you're 17, 18, 19, I feel like this also, you fall into the same rhythm where instead of sitting down and going, I'm gonna explore everything and try everything, you'll look at what you think you're really good at. So you're really good at figures, and you're really good at action poses, but you think you're terrible at backgrounds. So you just focus on that. And instead of breaking out of that and saying, you know what, I'm gonna sit here and for the next year, I'm gonna try to draw backgrounds every day. I'll still do everything else that I do, but I'm gonna try to draw a background, or I'm gonna try to work on a background, or I'm gonna explore what a tree actually looks like, how a tree actually is formed. And when Bob Ross or somebody is like doing it, how was he forming these trees? How was he making them look so good? And at the end of that year, you'll learn that you were able to create these backgrounds. You were able to stack these backgrounds up and make sure that these backgrounds look the way that they're supposed to look. We as adults don't typically do that, but kids will sit there because kids don't really care about so much just the end result. They really love the journey because they're telling stories to themselves in their heads, and they want to put that story together on the page, right? Adults, a lot of the time, we want whatever the end of that journey is supposed to be. We want the destination. So we want it to look a certain way. And if it doesn't, we tend to say, well, that wasn't good enough. That wasn't, instead of going, that was a lesson. That was a learning experience. That was exploration. That was doing a study. Because even if you do something, you render it out fully and it's supposed to be like the greatest looking thing you've ever seen, and it doesn't look that great, you still learned something. You still explored whatever that thing was. Adults tend to throw that away. Kids tend to look at that and go, I like that. And then try something like it again, but try to make it look better. Consciously, they're not thinking that. But subconsciously, they're consistently doing that. Mostly because their brains are still taking in tons of information and trying to get good at processing this information and putting everything together. But adults tend to want the thing to already be complete it, to look the best it's gonna look, to look better than anything else. Not thinking to themselves like, it's the exploration of that thing that is gonna help it look the best, right? And then we put the stop blocks. We put the little things in the back of our head that say, I'm not good at drawing animals. But how do you get good at drawing anything if you don't explore it, if you don't attempt it, if you don't have 100 pages of the worst looking drawings that you've ever seen in your life? And then at the end of that, you start to see some of these drawings look really good. Oh man, the way I did that snout and the nose is starting to look really good. The way I actually did the teeth on this thing is starting to look really good. And so you take that and then you can start layering on top of that. And then you realize, oh, I wasn't able to do anthropomorphic animals before, but now I can. Now I can actually do this style of like face, this style of portrait. I wasn't good at it before, but now because I've just been messing around with animal faces and feet, I'm able to do this type of portrait now. Or if you're somebody, you're an environmental artist, right? You work for who knows, Sony or somebody. You're making games. You're making these different types of things. And somebody comes up to you and is like, well, I really would love if you could do character designs. And you say to yourself, I'm not a character designer. I don't know what good character design looks like. The problem is you're thinking in your head that you have to have something that is completely finished and ready to go. But the truth is that no one is saying that the first thing that you draw character design wise is going to be, that's the finished product. There's going to be iteration upon iteration upon iteration. So the first time you draw something, maybe you are good at drawing humans, but designing characters and making them iconic isn't in your wheelhouse per se. You can get there though. But the way that you get there is you take those little steps. You design whatever the character is at first, and then you start exploring different things. What are things that you can also pull from your background as an environmental artist? How do you dress up your environments? What types of things do you do in your environments? Say there's an old temple. Well, is it in a desert region or is it in a more jungle region? What would you then put on that temple, on those stones? How would they look? Would they be weathered? Would they be sandblasted? What types of feelings, what types of colors would come from that region? Character design is the same way. But if you tell yourself, I'm not a good character designer, then you've already limited yourself in not being able to be good, because you're not thinking of using what you already know, how you already know to design something in this new field. So you take the environment and you go, how would I apply that to a character? Well, first, what would they be wearing? If the environment would be in a jungle, what kind of outfits would they be wearing? What colors? What's the mood set? You can use these same tools in the new thing that you're trying. And so you might not become the most renowned character designer after that, but the fact that you are attempting to do something new and you're exploring it is going to open up avenues, because you're going to take all of these lessons that you're learning in this new thing that you're trying, and you can apply it back to the environments. You could say, oh, okay, you know what? In old environments, I didn't have a lot of things that waved in the wind because I didn't think that was important, or I didn't feel like that was necessary for the environment. But now that I'm putting them in these environments, I see the environment now starts feeling a little bit more alive, right? You can learn these types of things because, say, a character would have to have tassels and flaps and something to make it look, when they're standing still have motion on them. You can apply that to the environment as well, but you might not have ever thought of doing that because you never attempted to design a character. And so with the idea of us saying, I'm not good at insert this, it's going to limit us when it comes to all of our art. So there was a period of time where I said to myself, I'm really good at designing weapons. And then a period of time where I was like, I don't think I'm good at designing weapons. But what stopped me from having that stay in the back of my head was thinking, well, I need to take, how are my characters using these weapons, right? How are they approaching the weapons that are in their hands? How functional are they? And then what's the color palette for the weapons? What's the color palette for the environment? That's going to determine how the weapon looks overall, not just in the environment, but just overall, even taken out of that environment. How does the weapon look? Does it glow? Does it have metal attached to it? Are there jewels and gems? Is it old and rusty? Does it feel like it's seen some days, some battles? And then the character that's wielding it, does that reflect on the character themselves? Is the character an amputee and, you know, they only use it one-handed? Or do they have both hands, just everything is sliced up? And are they brand new? Is this a sword that's not been used in any battle? And so the character is very young, doesn't have any scars, doesn't even know what battle really feels like. And these two things can kind of inform each other, but I need to understand what the character, and I need to use their physique and their design to help inform how I'm building these weapons, how I'm making them look, how verbose they are. How do they have a lot of ornamentation, or are they as simple as can be? These two things can inform each other. But if I say to myself, well, I'm not good at designing weapons, then any of the weapons that I design they're not going to look good. But I can take how I design characters, or I can take the environments that I design, that I think I'm good at multiple other things, and I can apply them to this new thing, or even just this piece of something that maybe in the past I was like, man, I'm great at this, but I don't feel like I'm great at this now. I can still pull these things forward and apply them to this new kind of thing that I don't think that I'm good at. I feel like when we get away from that, that's what really opens up your ability to make art. Because overall, us as humans are made to explore as much as humanly possible, right? We are innate in our nature of being able to explore, whether it's language, whether it's writing, whether it's art, whatever it might be, or it's just the real world. Sometimes it can even be that you go out in the real world and somehow you see something that just registers in your brain, and now you're like, I could draw a character. I really don't draw characters. I honestly focus on objects. I love still life, but I've never drawn a person. But this purse and this satchel and this dress and these pants, I love the way that they look, and I know that I would want to put them on a person. And that begins your entire exploration of figure studies. I honestly think, as an artist, and then this was something that I kind of wanted to get back to myself, but I think that you should take some explorations. You should take, whether it's every month or every other month or a couple times a year, whatever your schedule might determine. You could be somebody who's like, I could do it every single day. I think you should study. You should just take something that you're not comfortable with. You say, I'm not good at doing objects. I draw the worst pots that you've ever seen. The bottles that I've drawn are absolute trash. I don't know how to do organic items, or I don't know how to do metallic items or mechanical things. I've never been able to, say, draw a car. I think you should take time and attempt it. And not just like once or twice. Just focus on that thing for a while and get really, really proficient enough that you feel you're proficient, that you can open up your sketchbook or you can open up your program and you can go, that actually looks really, really dang good, dude. Like, I think you should do that, because I think doing that will help what you're really comfortable with. I think it'll expand what you're really comfortable with. For instance, there was a period of time that I felt I couldn't do digital backgrounds. Like when I'm in Clip Studio Paint, I couldn't do digital backgrounds the way I really wanted to do them. And as a kid, I drew backgrounds all the time. I was constantly, I would write these stories, these freaking novel stories, and I would draw all of these things, whether it was castles, forests, caves. There was nothing that I wasn't trying to draw. And then when I came back to art, I was like, I don't know if I can do backgrounds. And I took time to just sit there and honestly mess around and try to figure out, how do you do backgrounds digitally? How do you actually sit down and like put it together so that if somebody was just kind of like glancing at it, they'd be like, that looks really good. And it took time. And then of course, with the webcomic, there was different things that I was there. There was different types of backgrounds that I was attempting there, different tools that I was attempting to use. And it's only now, years later, that I'm starting to realize how to use the tools and how to do certain types of backgrounds and make them feel organic and good. But it takes time. And I think if we don't take that time to do those explorations and we don't get rid of, I'm not good at, insert this thing, then we can't be the best artists that we should be and we can be. I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves, and I think we're doing a disservice to art as a whole when we apply that to ourselves and then we don't attempt to explore further. Anyway, I do appreciate you guys watching this video. Depending on what you guys think, whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments. If you have not subscribed yet, please like and subscribe. I'm gonna try to get these out on, like I said, the first Friday of every month and the last Friday of every month. So hopefully you guys will get to see more videos, more art discussions. I hope you guys like the speed paints. Let me know if you like this style of discussion as well. I'm gonna attempt to do a little bit more of these, and we'll see whatever goes after that. Anyway, I am the prize-winning Squid. I do appreciate you guys stopping by, watching, and I hope you guys are out there doing tons and tons of art, because we need tons and tons of real artists doing real art, living real lives. So, appreciate you guys. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Alright, let's go.
Alright, let's take a look at our weather forecast today.
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. Just a perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.
Yeah.